Got it going. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the debut episode right here, right now of Offside LAX Talk. And I had to have the person that I've been connecting with the most over lacrosse for the past couple of years, bringing me on board to talk about the Thunderbirds and joining with all that family going on has been absolutely awesome. Got to do a lot of cool things. It's none other than Charlie Ragusa. Charlie, how's it going, buddy?
Good, guys. How's it going? I'm excited to be on. Good to catch up with you
Absolutely
guys.
stellar to have you on, buddy. Well, first thing I want to ask you is how's everything been for you? Obviously, no season last year. You know, the team came in, everything was hot, everybody was very excited, everything was rolling with that squad. And then it got stopped, and obviously everybody's dubbed it the unfinished business, the inaugural season 2.0. Whatever merch you want to create, you have something to say with it right there. But for you, how has everything been since the pause, and what are you doing to gear up to get back into that motion here in Halifax?
It's been crazy. I mean, you never really think something like this can happen kind of in our day and age. You kind of look back and see, the pandemics in the past and think we're well beyond that, but it really kind of puts you in a perspective that anything can happen at any given time. And, looking back on it, I think a lot of us thought, oh, it'll be, a month or it'll be 2 months. And then, 2 months turns into almost 2 years, it seems like. So it's just kind of been a roller coaster. I'm sure for everybody, it's, they're in the same boat with kind of coming back to normal and getting that feeling of, this is the world again. Everything's kind of opening them up, and, there's just that legitimacy kind of there with the light at the end of the tunnel. And so I think, shifting gears into what we're anticipating is just going to be an exciting year 1.5, 2, whatever you want to call it. There was so much momentum building up at the end there, just to see where we were at the purple and orange game and game 7, there's such a huge leap there. And I think games 8 and 9 were just going to be absolutely stellar and huge crowds. I know we had, basically we're projecting a sellout there for that last game against Toronto. And in that time off, everybody that I've talked to from, players from other organizations and staff members from other organizations, it's really been just an excitement factor there in Halifax. And I think we were able to, as a collective unit, put, the city on the map in terms of lacrosse. I think there's no doubt about it that, hockey has just been the lifeblood of Halifax for so long. I think the team was able to kind of, establish or put a pin on Halifax as just, a lacrosse city. So it's been awesome. And, when we were out at the Vegas launch there, just being able to talk to Joe Tsai and Wayne Gretzky, the two of them, echoed the same thing. Like, they were basing the new Vegas franchise on some of the successes that we had in Halifax. So to hear that from a billionaire owner as Joe Tsai owning the Nets and the Liberty and, other franchises, and then Wayne Gretzky, I mean, to hear those words come out of his mouth, it stops you dead in your tracks a little bit. We were there. It was John Catalano, Avery Light, myself, and Tyson Bell, Graham Hossack, and John introduced himself to Wayne Gretzky. And Wayne goes, "Oh, John Catalano, I was just talking about you last night." Like, how cool is that to have the greatest hockey player of all time mention you and bring up Halifax and the exciting things that we were able to do and the crowds and just that pageantry that the city got to see towards the end there. So long-winded answer, but it's just been awesome. Obviously there's been lows, but I think here kind of coming back, the highs definitely outweigh those lows.
Well, I can tell you the buzz is still here in the city, so that hasn't gone anywhere. You guys have definitely staked your flag here, and it's here to stay. But how cool is that, to go to that, see Wayne Gretzky, see the buy-in from a team like that that's coming in now, not only one, but 2 expansion franchises now coming into the NL. And, Halifax is now being talked about the model of what you want to do and recreate. And I told you this when I got to speak with you throughout the season, just the vibe that you got from people, the energy. Everybody loved the energy. And they talked about hockey being the lifeblood, but the way that the NLL came in and really captured everybody's imagination with the flow and the energy throughout the game with the music and just different things. People didn't experience that before and never got to see it. A lot of people don't get out of, HRM to go see different things, to see that and feel that vibe. You guys created that from the ground up, from the purple and orange game right up to the last game, the kitchen party game. Come on. Like all of these things were like just monumental events for Halifax. And now to see the league growing and these big owners coming in and doing different things. And like you said, everybody talking about what Halifax did to create that vibe and grow the game here, but across the league as well, because everybody sees that excitement and wants to join in. So now we're the ones that, hey, okay, we got to do what they did. Now, how do we do that? And I hope it's not by taking some of our talent, maybe like you or John or someone, and saying, hey, we're going to go do that over there. How about you come with us? Hopefully they just try to emulate and bounce ideas off you guys, because I can see one of you guys going that way and, growing the game that way.
Right. And I think there's something about being able to start a franchise from the ground up. And, we've had these conversations with Nick Sikevich, the commissioner, and some of the front office members there. And there's something really, really awesome about being able to kind of come in and create a culture right off the bat, for everything from the jerseys and the turf and, the branding, the goal song, the in-game experience. Like you have one shot at a first impression, with much of life. But when you magnify that into the public's eye in terms of a pro sport or a pro team, it's definitely something to be said. I think, looking at the way that Saskatchewan kind of, was that model franchise for a lot of teams. You took a look at the Bandits in the 90s and the 2000s. That was the staple franchise. That was the organization you wanted to be, the Bandits and the Wings. And Saskatchewan came about and kind of, put a new spin on that. I think they beefed it up a little bit and made that party atmosphere that, the NLL is all about. And I would say that's like the new model or the new era of what the NLL is. We kind of emulated a lot of the successes that the Urbans had put together in Saskatchewan and tried to do that in Halifax. And, a lot of the things that we did in Rochester, we brought over to Halifax. And, I think, what doesn't work in one market doesn't necessarily, have to be the same way in a new one. I think, Halifax took on to a lot of the things that we thought were going to work and they just didn't. And it was really rewarding to kind of see the years of hard work that we had put in a different city, moving to this city kind of pay off and end up being what we had originally thought it would do.
So as a new franchise, did you look to other franchises in other sports for inspiration? Like, I guess they did a good job of it, even though it rattled a couple feathers. Was Vegas did a pretty good job in the NHL, the Toronto Six in the NWHL, and maybe Montreal in the NWHL when they start up. Were you looking at other things, or did you just kind of want to do your thing? Like, we're going to try this. Sure, it may not have been done before, but we're willing to take that risk.
Absolutely. I think, you don't know if something works unless you give it a shot. And that's the beauty of it. Sometimes I think people are kind of afraid to try new things and they kind of, stick with the status quo. For us, we've always kind of been given, free reins with trying things and make sure, that we're not just falling into this trap of it's been done this way before, that's how we have to do things. I think we're, as an organization, willing to try new things. And we had reached out to a bunch of different organizations. We reached out to Saskatchewan, as I mentioned. We reached out to Calgary. Calgary, I think, is another organization that does a phenomenal job and doesn't really get the credit sometimes for what they do. The game that we got to play out there, they had 19,000 people, and
wow.
It was an absolutely electric crowd. And I think, sometimes they kind of fall under the radar, but they do a phenomenal job out there. So just talking to some of the other organizations within our league, things that work and that don't work, I think the other thing is sometimes thinking that everything you do is right, and that's not always the case. I think trial and error, but also just willing to speak to people and, know that your way is always the right way, that kind of, builds you up for success, because you get to see what is a proven model in some other cities. And it might not even be something that you're thinking of, but, it's worth giving it a shot and just, talking to other industry professionals.
Yeah, what you're kind of saying here, I don't know if you're familiar with it. Their season was only 5 weeks because of the COVID-19 pandemic, but it kind of sounds like you're trying to not copy, but kind of get the same vibe that the XFL teams had when they had crowds in the building and everyone was just having a good time watching the game, having a couple drinks, and they seem to have every fan in that building was diehard fans. So I like what I'm hearing, like what vibe you're getting around this team. It sounds really, really fun to be a part of.
Right. And we reached out to different industry professionals. I guess, like we had talked with some members in Vegas, kind of how their start came about. We had talked to different individuals in Tampa Bay, actually, with their game presentation, because I think they do a phenomenal job there as well. So we really exhausted all avenues and trying to talk to different people to make sure that, we were getting different approaches on how they do things. Again, because, the things that we knew or we thought would work, might not always be the right way. And other industry professionals, they know tips and secrets. And when you kind of, get beyond that train of thinking, I guess, or that thought process there, people are always willing to help out. It's just a matter of reaching out and sharing those secrets and sharing those successes. And that's what we're here now to for these other organizations. Like, we're always open ears and willing to chat with new franchises and say, this worked for us, this didn't work for us, because I guess in anything, like your team's only as good as its weakest player. And, with the NLL, like I want to see every team succeed, because if every team's succeeding, the league's succeeding. And that's just going to, create more opportunities down the road for expansion and, more teams in the league and more players. And, it's exciting.
Well, I know when you guys came in, I can tell you from the announcement onward, there was gear everywhere. Like, every player that I talked to, whether it would be Wiz, whether it was Graham, it didn't matter who it was, even John himself, they were so excited to see someone walking around with a Thunderbirds lanyard on, or, a T-shirt. They were blown away because they didn't even expect the atmosphere and everything to be the way it was. Usually you build into that, but everybody was so excited right from the get-go to have you guys here and to cheer you guys on. Because obviously we have the Halifax Mooseheads here, but really around, other than maybe the Halifax Rainmen or the Halifax Hurricanes and the Wanderers, whenever they're rolling and going. But we didn't have that, I'd say, marquee kind of franchise within the big leagues. And the NLL was the first one to come here and do that. Now, obviously, the Mooseheads are in the queue, but I look at the echelon of sports, and I say it's the NHL, the NLL, the NBA, the MLB. You know where I'm going with it. So to have you guys here, everybody was excited. And like I told you earlier, the excitement is still at a fever pitch here, and everybody can't wait for you guys to get back. And then what you guys did and pulled off at the draft, getting guys like Tyson Bell, getting guys to come to this squad, and then drafting players that everybody was excited about as well. It was just, the build was even bigger, because I know when we did the draft night that you guys were so graciously allowed me to be a part of, it was huge because people were watching, and you watch social media and everybody's talking about, hey, this player's coming over here. This is going to be great. This is a guy that we need. And then I talked to the guys all year long, and they said, don't even worry. We haven't even played a full game yet. Wait till we put it all together. And that's when you guys were absolutely rolling. And I think the O was still there. You guys were still undefeated. And they're like, no, we haven't even played our best game by a long shot. So just everything, from the game day presentation to the team to everything, it went off without a hitch. And we can't wait for you to get back here, Charlie.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the exciting part too, is, when you reference Tyson Bell and some of the free agents that we were able to pick up, I think when you can kind of compare it to college football, I guess, in a sense, where, it's this feeling of a brand and a popular brand. And, that's how you lure, 5-star recruits and these players that really revitalize programs and kind of set the tone for the future. When you find success and you start winning and the crowds show up and there's an electricity in the building, it's easier to recruit new players and kind of build on that model and create dynasties. And when you're able to pick up those sort of players in the NLL, it makes drafting a little bit easier because now you can kind of take some chances on some American players that might not have the same box experience, but they're true, athletes, like a Ryan Terefenko. I'm incredibly excited to see what he's going to be able to bring into the box. The first 4-year All-American at Ohio State, a player like that coming in, just a pure athlete and kind of growing him and grooming him, from the ground up around that defensive core of Graham Hossack, David Brock, Tyson Bell, Scott Campbell. Like, I think those are the type of draft picks that you find the diamond in the rough. And again, it's kind of a blessing in disguise because of, the free agency pickups and the trades that you're able to make because people want to come to your market, because they see, how things are going. They see the full crowd. They see the energy in the building. So it's really cool to be able to be on the business side of things where you can kind of create that environment and then, see everything kind of on the team side follow suit. It's awesome.
Well, let's back the truck up just a little bit here because obviously we're talking about you and the team side of things, but we haven't even talked about that yet. So everybody who's listening, there's going to be a lot of people coming to this for the first time and not know who Charlie Ragusa is. So break down your origin story. How did you get with the Thunderbirds? What is it that you do each and every day for the Thunderbirds? Just pretend we know absolutely nothing. Just break it down for us.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I from a young age, I used to love sports in every single possible capacity. As a fan, growing up in Rochester, we had the Rochester Americans, the affiliate of the Sabres, and I think it was around 2004 or so where it was really kind of like, I fell in love with the sport. I think it was around the lockout years when we had, a lot of those Sabres guys, Derek Roy, Jason Pominville, Thomas Vanek, Ryan Miller come down and play in Rochester, and the crowds were full and the energy was there, So growing up in that atmosphere, that was kind of my first taste of like, wow, this is awesome. Like, but as a kid, you don't really know that, working in sports is a real option. In high school, then that thought process kind of came about. So then I went to St. John Fisher College here in Rochester and went for sport management, and I started interning with the Amherst and the Nighthawks. So it kind of came full circle. My first game actually with the Nighthawks, I was an intern, and I ran the flags out of the tunnel, and I actually ran the flags out right before Cody Jamieson in his first ever NLL game. So it's kind of cool to know, your career, is as long as one of the guys on your team, the lifeblood of this organization. And I think it's kind of it's cool to see that too, right? Like Stephen Keogh, Cody Jamieson, Scott Campbell, they've been around for that longevity there. Mike Accursi as a player, like seeing these guys, their families grow up, you grow up along with them. It's just a really cool thing. So, from there, I was with the Nighthawks throughout that, the three-peat that we had, 2012 to 2014. Then obviously followed Kurt and the organization to Halifax, 2018, 2019 there, and to basically build it up from the ground floor. And basically what I do is, graphic design and social media stuff, but I've, been involved with creating ticket maps and ticket strategies. I was a ticket person over with Rochester, kind of was my start. I was a director of ticket sales over there. So just having, your feet in a bunch of different departments and hands in a bunch of different things. It's awesome to be able to kind of, work with a great group of people and do your part in kind of building that franchise from the ground up.
Yeah, I'm a sports management student at Humber here, so they tell us like do as much as you can, even if you only know a little bit about it. They're always going to want to show you how to learn, especially with kind of like these new franchise and stuff. So that's actually nice to hear that that's how you got your start.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's the thing I think is, you really have to figure out what you want to do, and the only way you're going to be able to do that is take some chances. I grew up with or I went to school with a bunch of kids that kind of waited until the very end and had a little bit tougher time, finding what it was that they wanted to do, finding that niche. For me, I was lucky enough that I kind of jumped at opportunities to just help out on game nights for, in game presentation. And then I got into tickets, and, then I found a passion for social media and graphic design. And that kind of, is the route that I've decided that I wanted to go. And, again, but it's not an overnight thing, but you kind of find that niche over time. But by doing so, and by being involved in different departments, you understand how the business runs from top to bottom. I was fortunate enough to be the equipment guy for the Rattlers and the MLL when they were here. So being able to see the team side of things, on the business side of things, knowing what it is that the equipment guys need on game nights or the coaching staff might need, it allows everybody to kind of understand each other and their roles, and, make decisions that are best for the entire organization, not just whatever department it is that you're in.
So for the inaugural season 2.0, the unfinished business for Charlie for this year, what are some of your goals going into the season? What are things you're looking forward to not only help growing, but for yourself to take next steps?
I think for us, we want to be the best, digital presence in the league by a long shot. Like, I don't want us to just be okay or near the top. I want us to knock it out of the park and be the organization that everybody kind of bases their digital strategy around. I think we were kind of falling into the groove towards the end there of, having, different exciting videos and things like that. But I think knowing how Halifax has responded to different things, getting a year under our belt, what works, what doesn't, I think coming into it now with this prolonged time off, I think we're just going to knock it out of the park. And that's the goal, is to be the best on and off the floor. And really that's what we strive to do, is just make this, the staple franchise that everybody wants to be, almost kind of a point where it's, man, I don't like that organization. Well, why? Well, I don't know. I'm always seeing stuff about them, and that's kind of why you end up hating franchises, right? It's,
yep.
I wish my franchise was like that in certain ways. And there's almost like a little bit of jealousy. That's what we want. We want people to love us, hate us. I don't really know, how to
Just
say
keep
it
talking
correctly,
about you
but
guys.
right. Exactly. We want to just be the best on and off the floor, I guess, to keep it simple there.
No, listen, watching you guys last year, there's no doubt it's going to be awesome this year. Now, for the actual on-field product, for
Mhm.
you, who are you looking forward to this season? Obviously, for me, I want to see what Tyson can do with this squad. The squad was strong before him, and it'll be even stronger now. I love watching Wiz do the face-offs. He's an absolute beast in there. You wouldn't think he would be, but he is. And it's so funny to see a Kersey chirping him for playing video games all the time instead of working out. So those little things you get to see and be a part of, and it's
Right.
pretty funny. But for you, what are you looking forward to this season, player-wise, and obviously game-wise as well?
I think for us, I mean, defensively, we're going to be the best defensive team in the league. And I think that's like, with Graham Hossack, when I saw him in Vegas, my jaw dropped. I was like, I didn't think that this guy could get any bigger, but he has. He's, probably put on 20 pounds of muscle. And I'm not, like, he is an animal. And his play in the PLL right now, he is solidified, in my opinion, the best defenseman in the world. When you take a look at both sides of it, the field side, the indoor side, I think he's the best defenseman in the world. And that's not me being a homer. That's me being, taking a look at it and really just seeing what he is. And that's a guy that you build a defense around. Like, he's your staple piece. And, you start building little pieces around that. I think Tyson brings a little bit more excitement on, the two-way side of things, being able to push the ball in transition. You got another elite defenseman in David Brock, an underrated at times defenseman, but just an absolute, stud out there on the floor, veteran player. Wiz is the best face-off guy in the league. But again, he's a solid stay-at-home defenseman. And the other part of it is too, I'm just super excited to see a full season of Shanksy and Clark. you
Shanks,
know,
yes.
on the floor together. Shanksy had a couple injuries last year, so he was in and out a little bit. But Clark, just getting a full year under his belt, those two, I just can't see them slowing down. I think they're only going to get better. And then you've got Cody, who's obviously just one of the best players in the world. And then Steph LeBlanc in that offense, I think he's going to be a huge contributor. You see what he did in New England when he was with the Black Wolves there before their move, obviously. Just a huge piece with Callum Crawford the past couple of years, being a setup man and really kind of benefiting off of the play of that right side. So I think him setting things up with Cody and, as I mentioned, Shanksy and Clark, I think the offense is going to be just as good, if not better.
So for you, I want to ask this question. Obviously, we're talking about how great the D is going to be and how great the team is going to be with these players. But there are 2 expansion drafts looming.
Yep.
So for you, do you guys have any worries, or for yourself personally, do you have any worries about losing a key piece or losing key pieces, obviously with 2 coming in? Or do you think that we have enough depth and enough, drafting well and things like that to cover for whatever is going to be taken off this team?
Well, so hang on. So how come the Golden Knights were exempt, but you guys weren't? I know it's a different sport, but that seems a little shifty.
It does stink. It stinks. And I think, to your point, it's always terrible on that front, where losing guys that are, key players in your lineup. But I think we've kind of done a really good job with filling up gaps and having, players that can kind of come in and take over that role. Obviously, losing Benny to Fort Worth, that's a tough pill to swallow. Benny's a great guy, huge locker room guy, just, one of the most loved guys in the league. But getting a player like Steph LeBlanc who can kind of step in and take over that role, 900 career points for Steph, it's not a bad option to fall back on, right? Like,
yeah.
Now you have Steph LeBlanc and then Cody, who just is a magician out there. So, it always sucks seeing them leave, not only from the competitive side, but what they mean to a team and, what they mean to the staff and, that kind of that feeling of being a family member. You can only wish them the best, but, and then obviously you kind of have to just focus on the team that you have in front, because no rosters are the same. You win a championship and even the team that kind of follows suit, there's no guarantees that everybody's coming back between free agency, trades, retirement. So just trying to living in that moment and, putting the best team on the floor year after year.
Well, we got the season coming up. Obviously, we're all hoping that COVID decides to, put itself away and go back to bed and we can all get forward to living life again. What can you tell the fans of Halifax, because there's going to be a lot listening to this, about what will be coming this season? Can you give us any sneak peeks, any bit of maybe a tidbit, a dribble of something the fans can get excited about, other than you guys coming back, of course, because that's the huge news. But right. Is there anything in the cooker that'll get fans really pumped up? Maybe another kitchen party, maybe another East Coast lifestyle kind of game, whatever it is. You got to give me something.
I think those theme nights are going to be back. I think that's easy enough to say. I can't really say too much, but I think those sort of nights are going to be back where people are going to jump at those opportunities. I think if anyone has those kind of lasting memories of what the first season was, I think that they can just expect all expectations to be shattered. I think we're going all in on this, and I think with talking with Kurt and John and the coaching staff, everybody from the players and the staff members, everybody's all in on this season. And I think I don't want to say championship or bust, but I truly think that the mindset at all levels is this is our year, and we're going to do whatever we can to make this incredibly special.
Well, listen, John did say championship or bust when I had him on after he won the award. So you're okay to say that. And what you just said was absolutely echoed to the same thing that John said from top to bottom, what you just said right there. I could play the audio side by side. It would be too far off. So it is championship or bust. It's what we're all expecting here in Halifax. We're very excited. Charlie, I want to thank you for being the first person on Offsides LAX Offside Talk. It's no longer just hockey talk. Can't wait to bring the lacrosse into the fold and talk more throughout the season when everything's rolling. I wish you nothing but health, and you need to get here to Halifax soon so we can sit down, have a beer, and talk about this face to face.
I absolutely cannot wait. And the second that border opens, I promise you I will be up there. So, but it's been an honor. Obviously, we appreciate your guys' support and everything you've done for us, hyping up the organization. And, we're truly honored to have, a bunch of people like you in Halifax that really love this team and this organization. So can't thank you enough. And, anytime you want to have me back, I'm all ears. I'm all in on chatting about it.
We will have you on multiple times this season, I'm sure, picking your brain about different things. And I'm sure I will see you down at the Scotiabank. So
absolutely. Thanks,
all
guys.
right, Charlie. Well, thank you very much, man.
Yep. Take care, guys.